Welcome to What the Builder Knows, a podcast by Greenwald in BC. I'm Colin, Herren, President, and with me today,
Preston, Herren, Vice President.
So Preston is both a co-owner and also a cousin, so family matters around this business, and so we just wanted to come to you today and talk about a few things in the remodeling business. So as you may know, Greenwald in BC is a general contractor. So we build new homes, we build remodels, we build commercial, we do various pieces of your home like deck, siding, roofing, whatever. Today specifically we want to talk about remodeling. Why? Preston, tell me, why would somebody choose to remodel, especially in today's market? We're talking 2025. Why would somebody choose to remodel?
We see in our market currently housing costs are going up to build new, and we see that to buy a home is less expensive than to build a new one. So we get questions all the time like, we get someone that calls us in and they say, hey, I want you to come look at this project. I want you to look at my kitchen, my bathrooms. What would it take to remodel this area inside of my home?
Right, so we see that a lot with realtors and such when they're looking at houses. They'll counsel their potential clients to say, find out before you invest in this house, find out if you can afford to do the things it needs or the things you want to do to it. And so we get engaged in those quite often. But if from my standpoint, I'm going to talk Central Michigan numbers. Preston does more of the Northern Michigan market, which is a little bit different in cost, but homes in our market right now in 2025 are probably selling for $100 a square foot, $110, $120 a square foot, and we're building houses in this area for
$300 and up a square foot.
Right, 300 plus a square foot. So sometimes the best solution is to buy an existing house in an existing neighborhood, or take the house you have in a neighborhood and consider upgrading that home or putting the things you want into it. So I would tell you that that's a larger percentage of our business than is the new homes. Even though we do lots of new homes, there's more remodels available to us, correct?
Yeah, I think we specialize in remodel, meaning new decks, new roofs, new siding, new kitchen, new bathrooms. We've figured out how to go inside of the home and segregate the scope of work and get trades to give us pricing on that, figure out scope, talk to homeowners, get their wants, wishes, and needs, put it in a plan, and a lot of times remodeling is the best practice for us.
So let's talk about why remodeling sometimes, remodeling is more expensive sometimes per square foot, but why remodeling can be a lower cost than building a house. One of those is that you have a smaller scope, right? So you don't always have to build a new septic. You don't always have to dig a new well. You don't have to put in a new driveway. You don't have to buy a foundation. I mean, some remodels, some additions include that. So sometimes there's a lower scope. So, my experience is we often put in better cabinetry or better flooring or better showers in a remodel than we would in a new house because they have a smaller scope of work, a smaller area, and people can kind of deck those areas out with nicer stuff for a lower total overall cost.
Yep. Yep. And I would say if I was a homeowner and I was looking at buying a home in today's market, think of the year the home was built. Because one thing we run into in remodeling is the older the home, more typically updating goes in.
Right.
Like mechanical systems, plumbing systems. So let's say you've got a turn-of-the-century home on the water. You've got this cottage house, and you just want to redo the bathroom. And you dig and you look and you find and you bring a plumber in and he says, well, this is all cast iron. You need to replace it from point of source going out the wall all the way to the bathroom. And all of a sudden, price per square foot gets blown out the window and it gets exaggerated by other costs that go in it. So imagine, amplifying that through the house. So if I was a new homeowner, I'd be looking at a 15-year-old house versus a 100-year-old house if you're thinking about, just sheerly the cost of the remodel.
If you're thinking about buying one to remodel. But certainly, and I've a lot of realtor friends in the business, they're selling houses, good quality houses, let's say 1980s, 1990s, houses that are reasonably modern built for sometimes a third of the price of building new or a half of the price of building new. So to be frank, even buying that house, you have some meat on the bone, if you would, left to upgrade a few things that are important to you. Granted, you have to look at, is the roof in good shape, is the windows in good shape, whatever, but sometimes they are, and in which case you don't have to invest in all of them. So we see that. What is another reason that people choose to remodel?
Sometimes it's an emotional investment. We see this a lot. We see people looking at a home, maybe it was your family's townhouse, maybe for myself, it was your family cottage home on an island or in a vacation area, and it's more of an emotional investment. They want to keep the family, they want to keep the home in the family. They want to keep, their namesake on it. So they look at it a different way. And they look at it in a way of like carrying the torch on to the next person. So they remodel it and they get ready for the next group of people.
So in that case, when you remodel, really sometimes it's not just remodeling, it's maintaining the integrity of the home and making sure its useful life is extended. And so that's another reason I hear a lot is, we've looked around and for what we'd have to spend, our house is paid off or we don't owe very much. We only have a mortgage for 5 years or whatever. And for what we'd have to spend, we're just not interested for what we'd gain. We like our neighbors, Joe lives across the street, that kind of thing. We're convenient to the hospital, whatever the thing is. And so they're like, let's just look at spending, and I'm going to use a random number, 25 on a bathroom or 100 or 200,000 retrofitting this house to the things I care about. And the nice thing, I looked at one this morning, the person's like, I will take a multi-year approach to this. We need to do, the doors and windows first. We'll do landscaping second. We'll do, we'll come back in later and we're going to address blah, blah. And so they already know that they don't have to spend all of that at once. So that's another aspect. And this gentleman just bought this home. So that's interesting.
I know it goes in two folds. Like we do a lot of multi-phase remodels too. Maybe it's the money. Maybe you decide like, man, this is great. If you have money invested in the market, you're using it, smaller portions at a time. Sometimes it comes down to making all the choices. When you talk about building new, there's a lot of choices to be made very rapidly, and some people that's burdensome, and they decide,
It's hard.
hey, let's just compartmentalize this. Let's do exterior first, then let's move interior. That way, I can't handle batting all these choices around.
And let's tell everybody that in our opinion, and I think I'll speak for you, there is a lot of choices on the outside, but the inside is where choices get real serious. Like the outside is like structure, siding, windows, roof. There's choices to be made there, but nothing like the inside, right? And so you're right. Sometimes when you break it down to just a bathroom or just a kitchen or a kitchen and living and dining, whatever, there's less and it's left over. I worked with a client here this last year, and I remember I said, when we're remodeling the bathroom, you want to change the vanity light? And he said, yeah. And then he looked at her and said, do you want to select a new light? Because if so, like everything is a decision, like not only a decision to do it, but then a decision of, do you want to go through the process of it? So you're right. Now, I just want to give a quick plug. Our team has somebody on our staff that helps with that, right? Full-time person dedicated to making selections, helping you price those and see, try to maintain your budget or make sure you know where your budget is. So give a shout out to Caitlin and our team that's full-time selection coordinator. That's somebody we have on staff. Another reason that we see, and maybe people don't walk up and tell us this, but according to statistics, when I just was visiting Builder Show here a little while ago, 84% of mortgages are at 4% or less. So right now in America, of mortgages, 84% of them are at 4% or less. If you have a mortgage at 4% or 3% or 2.5%, to move probably requires a mortgage of nearly 7%. At this time, I think the last I looked, there was 6.7 on a 30-year note or something.
Yep.
So to move, there's a significant interest difference. So sometimes it's like, man, I don't want to shift, whatever my mortgage is to that higher rate. So it's just better. Let's think about remodeling here. So we see that as well quite frequently.
Sometimes it's location. People you get acquainted, you get used to your surroundings, you get used to being in a subdivision, or you really like your neighbors. Like I know this personally, where it's like you want to live there. You don't want to leave what you know, so you choose to remodel, and you're kind of a lifer. You're like, all right, good, bad, exactly what the cost is, that's all right. I'm going to stay here for 20 years. I'm going to live here. I'm going to pass this house on versus, we're new to the neighborhood. Maybe they're not so keyed in on it.
Right.
Maybe they're like, in 5 years I might move with my job. So definitely there's two different views.
So it's not that we can't work for any client, but demographically our clients tend to be people who are staying longer or intend to, because they're going to emotionally commit to it. So it's not that people don't move 5 years after we work for them, but largely people are like very connected to their home, to the community, maybe to the neighborhood, whatever, at every level. Demographically, our clients generally set in that realm, and generally they're older because they've had the opportunity. And by older, I don't mean like just old, but not the first-time home buyer, more the people it's a second home or the third home they've had in their life, because now they understand the value of the location and the value of the neighborhood, or the things they do or don't like about houses, and not just what you saw on TV, but really living with it, throughout. So I would tell you that remodeling, while it's more expensive for each part because we have to tear something apart, we often have to find problems, we have to correct those problems. It lowers the overall cost compared to new. Like we talk all the time of, man, that house went for $400,000, but it had cost us $1.5 million to build it, right? So it just lowers the cost overall to the client. So that's an important reason to remodel. Statistically, home builders, National Association of Home Builders, they consider remodeling to be somewhere around flat to increasing this year, like not super steep, but the dollars that they expect to spend in 25, 26, and 27 is like an increase of 5 to 2%, a year, somewhere in that range. So meaning the dollars being spent by the American public. Statistically speaking, remodeling has been strong for a lot of years. It declined in the Great Recession and just after when people just didn't have a lot of money, but statistically, the dollars being spent on remodeling has been increasing for 10 or 15 years. So it's definitely a strong market segment, and I think that's why we've went to it so much. And you get to make a lot of people happy, right?
Yeah, our remodeling sector is got to be close on our residential side to 50-50 at times between that and new builds.
Yes.
Usually our clients are more serious about the remodel. We get a lot of inquiries about a new build, but typically, you're already emotionally invested. You've already bought the home. You're already living in it. A lot of times you can envision how you're going to use the home in a different way if you're already in it. Sometimes with new builds, like you can't really see yourself there, so you're a little bit more detached to it. I feel like the remodel clients we talk to are definitely more serious about the overall scope of the project.
Well, for a lot of reasons. If they live there a while, we see people remodeling because maybe their kids have moved out and they build themselves a home office, or they might have a large house, but they find there's one room that's like 10 by 12, and that's their favorite room. That's where they watch their TV, they eat their snacks, their little den. Sometimes people can have fabulous rooms, but they just have little cozy rooms, and so sometimes you go in and make those cozy rooms a little cozier. Sometimes we finish off basements, very common, put on sunrooms, 3-story or 2-story sunrooms sometimes, 3 seasons rooms we put on. A lot of times, we're just outfitting the master bath, just the things that make it home, truly home, right? What is the hot trends in remodeling right now, Preston? What do you see the most of?
Hot trends. I would say what we get called on the most right now is the big push at the stay-at-home workers. We see a lot of home offices.
Yep.
Home office, can you add a home office? Can you take our guest bedroom? A lot of these clients, they're maybe into their 50s and they're childless, they're in college, they've grown, and they're like, hey, can we turn this bedroom into a home office? And while we're at it, can we upgrade some of our low voltage systems? Can we upgrade our internet systems? We don't really need a landline anymore, but we want home streaming. We want data points. We want whatever that takes, for us, like up on islands, we're running Starlink. So constantly upgrading internet, constantly upgrading streaming. 10 years ago, we were putting low voltage speaker systems in, and now it's like there's not hardly a wire in a home unless it's a 120.
Right. So and if it is, it's a Ethernet cable.
Yep. It's like a Cat 5 or something. So just the technology is changing a lot, and we're adapting quickly to it and trying to give clients what they're asking.
And for those who have been in the market a long time, you got to remind yourself that, like, I was building houses before dial-up internet came around, and the infrastructure of building then is not today's infrastructure. So even homes that I built, which I call modern homes, 35 years old, they don't have that technology, right? So when you try to work from there, it's totally different. So let's talk quickly about where we serve. And so we serve a lot of the state, a large portion of the state. We concentrate, like I have a job in Atlanta, I have a job in Manistee, we work in Alma, so Gratiot County, Montcalm County, got jobs in Clare County. You've got jobs over, in Eaton, Charlevoix.
Yep. We're in Emmett County, like around Harbor Springs. We're in Petoskey. We're on Beaver Island, also in Charlevoix. So our company's definitely trying to grow with our niche, and that's, finding people that want to do these remodels and committed to building, and we're just learning to travel. Sure. As a team, we're learning to go where the work is at. We want to be able to service everyone in our community with the growth of our business and where we're at. And, we've hired more people to specialize more. We're learning, with our team, we need more work, and so we're traveling outside of our norms.
Yeah, so I guess the way I'd break that down is we would rather drive a half hour, an hour, whatever the number is, and service a client who values our level of service versus staying home, if you will, and working for the wrong client. And it's not that every client's the right client, but a good remodeling process requires a lot of trust, a lot of communication, clear communication, and an awful lot of just good old-fashioned fit. We fit properly. So as we've grown, we got to make sure that we find we're the right builder for the client's the right client for us, for our team, the expectations align, our abilities align with their expectations. So we've had to learn to travel a little bit. And let's throw out, I'm going to do a speed session. Let's throw out both numbers. And so first off, say we service a wide range of types of clients. Predominantly, we serve maybe move-ups to last-time home buyers, like not necessarily starters. So the numbers I'm going to throw around here might understand that we serve clients that expect amenities, right? Not just basic starters. And also, like on Beaver Island, when we have an office, the price is, percentage-wise, how much higher than mainland?
30% higher to build on a remote island compared to building on the mainland.
So I want to throw around a few remodeling numbers, just do a speed session, and I'm going to throw like what my average job is here, and you throw like your average job up in the northwest part of the state, just to give ideas if they're going to call, what range of stuff might cost us. So if I called you up for a standard like hall bathroom, let's talk about a tub shower or maybe a shower bathroom that has a vanity, a toilet, not very big. We're talking about the 5x8, the 6x10, the just hall bathroom. How much do you think you spend remodeling one of those on average?
16 to 19,000.
16 to 19,000. So, and that's just with good old-fashioned amenities, right?
Basic amenities.
So to get into the $10,000 range is like probably impossible.
Yep.
And to get into the $25,000 range, you can have some pretty nice stuff.
Yep, we've built $70,000 bathrooms,
Let's not scare him,
12.
Preston, but yes, I understand.
Yep.
So, but I'm saying it starts at the 16-ish, 20 is a good number. But we do a lot of 20 to 25s easily, and those include a nice vanity with a quartz countertop or something like that. It's going to have a beautiful tub, nice tub shower that might have tile, surround, some built-in niches. It's going to have tile floor. It's going to have good paint. We're going to have like a Panasonic fan and a really high quality fan, and that can get you up to 25 or 30,000, right? So let's just say, but the hall bathroom that everybody wants that they need for their kids,
basic bathroom,
and then a master bathroom. How much you see? So masters can get pretty tricked out, right?
Yep, like probably on average, our master bathroom, whether like a remodel or a room inside of a new home, those probably range from 35 to 50,000. That's more of tiled showers, glass Euro doors, his and her vanity, quartz countertops, drop-in sinks like a Delta or Moen, faucet fixtures, slide bar shower, maybe a head.
Might have a shower
floors.
and a tub, right? In that type setup. And it could potentially has a separated room for the water closet, the toilet. Might have a bidet in there, right? So we're currently building a house that has probably somewhere between 100 and 150,000 in that bathroom. I don't recall exactly. But yeah, it's got it all tricked out. It's got the vanity area. The closet's just off there. So when I say the master bath, I guess I should have said the master suite in that case. But yeah, so people will spend more in their master, right? But generally they always spend more in their master, but then primary is the new name for it now, I guess. But that suite generally has always got nicer amenities in it, and then the price tag goes up. I rarely have done one for under like 40 to 50,000, but we do see 70, 80, 100,000, more and more. And a lot of that is, you're no longer buying a $2,000 vanity, you're buying a $10,000 vanity, or you're buying a beautiful mirror set for it. It's
combination linen cabinets, sink bases, pull-out drawers, toe kicks.
You got the hot iron drawer for the vanity where the curling irons stay plugged in and they just get tucked back into those kind of things. All right, let's talk kitchen. Like, what's the average kitchen now? There's huge ranges here, but let's talk kitchen.
Huge ranges, but like if you're talking up north, lakefronts, lake shores on the island, you're probably low end is in the $70,000 range, and they can easily go to well over 100. And if it's completely custom tricked out, you can spend $150,000 pretty easy.
Yeah, you'd be shocked, but $100,000 doesn't cover as much in a kitchen as you think. By the time you spend 30 on cabinets, and then you spend 10 on countertops, and then you spend 5 on fixtures, and $10,000 is just not that much money for appliances anymore. And now we got to drywall and paint and floor, and we get new electric, and so $100,000 just doesn't get you as far. I mean, it doesn't get you as much kitchen as you want. So we literally do a lot of kitchens that are maybe $200,000 or more too. But you're right. $50,000 would be really hard to do any kind
Really
of kitchen.
hard.
So 70 to 100, that's a lot of kitchens. A lot of kitchens are 70 to 100. And again, when I say that, that includes, maybe it includes a new window to the room. It includes, patch drywall or new drywall. It includes, changing out the plumbing. It includes, now we're adding the
All the
island.
updates, all
we're
the
putting
updates.
the lights over top of the island, so yeah, under cabinet lighting. So we're not talking the bare bones, but if you're just changing out cabinets, you could probably do it for less, but no one asks for that anymore, do they?
Yeah,
They want to
complete
upgrade.
tear out.
Yeah,
Complete tear
want to
out.
upgrade everything. So somebody just wants to put a roof on a house. What's an average roof cost?
Average, let's say,
And the island's a lot different, let's be honest.
1,500 square foot home on the water. Let's say it's cut up, it's artsy, so it's not a big home. It's just your average size home. Usually I'm in the $35,000 to $40,000 range. There's a lot more to it when you're
Right.
working on lake shores.
Right.
Costs are higher.
So on Beaver, we have to ship all the materials back across, meaning all the leftovers,
Yep.
all of your trash, etc. So that's more expensive. And I would tell you, Central Michigan area and up, that same house is probably somewhere between 15 to 20,000 for that. Maybe for a new roofing system. We're talking about asphalt roofing system. What's new windows in a house cost on average? And that's a huge difference too. But
Yep. Quality, I guess our first question is always, type of window, quality of window. That range is huge. But on our lakefront properties and lakeshore properties, everyone wants the view. So it is very easy to put together, even on a remodel, with complete tear out, reinstall, new trims on the outside, new trims on the inside, energy efficient blinds, low E. It's easy to spend that $60,000 to $100,000 range on glass. Let's just say on the lakefront. That's their biggest area with doors.
Right.
So like a complete home package on the water usually is $100,000 for glass.
right.
You know.
Yeah. So
installed.
most lake houses we build, we spend 125 to 150 for the windows in the house, and no, that's all the way around. So replacing an average lake house for 100,000 doesn't surprise me. Now you can do, if you got a country home with 6-10 windows, whatever, you can get those down to $20,000-$30,000. But let's be honest, we work primarily for vacation people on these lakes. That's a lot of our job. And you're right. So if you bought a 100-foot lot and it's $700,000 and you spent that much money per foot on that lot, you don't want to waste
Yeah, you're
your
gonna have
money
really
on your
nice
view,
glass.
right?
Yep.
You want to see it. So that's a lot of what we do. What's the next big? So decks. Yeah, decks. Let's talk about that. So you can build a deck, a wood deck, a very small wood deck for $10,000, right?
Yep.
But when you get into these cable rail systems and these really tricked out, let's call it composite Trex or AZEK, those brands, we're building a lot of decks for $30,000 to $50,000.
Yeah.
Pretty good size.
We're building about 1,000 square foot deck right now. It's fully composite, trim boards, inlaid. It's got cable rail systems, handrail systems all the way around, and we're $155,000 on the water.
Right.
With all the permits, to get a deck like that, and all of a sudden, is it easy to spend $100 a square foot on a deck when
Yeah.
you want all these amenities? Sure is.
Well, remind yourself again, that's a location.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes the most important room in their home from Memorial Day to Labor Room, right? It's outside the home, but that's the most important room. So for them, that's where the parties happen. That's where the morning coffee
The gathering,
happens.
that's where they want to be.
And that's their happy place,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're investing a lot of money there. That's super important, which, usually when we build a new home, they just kind of throw a deck on as an afterthought. They haven't been there. But when we're remodeling, people are like, here's the view I have. Here's what I want to see.
They'll spend more money on a deck than
Yeah,
what they
it's
would
shocking.
on a new home.
And when I say deck, sometimes it's a whole patio package. Sometimes
a
it's a little
sunroom.
landscaping.
Yep.
Yeah. So very common. What's the next most, and we probably got to wrap up because we've bored these people long enough. What's the next most common improvement that we get called to make?
We get a lot of right now. It's like how can I take, because building new is expensive. They say, how can I turn my garage into livable space?
Yeah.
How do I change my garage attic into something I can use? And it leads to a bunch of parameters, code requirements, trades. How do I get water mechanicals there? But we hear this all the time lately on my end. Is like, how do I take this sometimes detached garage space? How do I create a breezeway between the house and the garage? And how do I, because I'll give up some of the garage space to turn into a laundry, but we get a lot of this lately. Like, how do I turn this space into something
So it's
useful?
interesting. In the last couple of weeks, I signed a contract on one here in Mount Pleasant. I won't tell you their names, but they had a current 3-car garage, and they want to make that into a game room, right? That more space in the house, and then turn around and add another 3-car garage space. So, but to give you an idea, that is, let's see, so 36 by 40. So, you know, pretty good size. What are we talking about, like 1,300 square foot or whatever. But that's like $220,000 to put this garage addition on. Granted, it's insulated and it's drywalled and it's a nice finished garage. But the costs certainly are high, and I don't know what that is per square foot. We used to say a lot of times a lot of garages are $70 a square foot, $75 a square foot for decent garages. Certainly the costs have went up, but still to this person, they love the location, they have a great view, they're on a river, blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, what their family didn't have is that big space. So they're getting a big space, then getting the new garage. So we see a lot of that. And, you know, when you compare it to building a new house, which they considered, it's still a value, you know, and again, they love the location. So, well, I hope we didn't bore you too much today. I think we've been into the 20-some minute range. We're always long-winded, but my name's Colin. This is Preston. We hope you would consider calling us for remodeling. Hope we entertained you a little bit. Maybe we educated a little bit. We'd be happy to work with you. And again, most of the time, it's if you're in northern Michigan, Preston's kind of on you. If you're central Michigan, I'm kind of taking care of you. We got many others. We got about a 30-person team, but that's our starting points here with these two people. And we would be we'd be happy entertaining a project that you might like to. Final words.
Yeah. If you're going to call us about a remodel, I hope this sparks some interest in your thought of thinking, and I hope this gives you an idea of what something might cost before you would call any builder. So I hope this was very informative for you.
And understand sometimes the sticker shock is the first person you talk to is where they get sticker shock, and then after you call around to 2 or 3, then you start to realize, oh yeah, that's just what it costs. So we're the people that want to tell you the truth, and you know, I know we gave you some huge price ranges, but that's just the reality of pricing in the market right now, and we think we're pretty competitive because we wouldn't keep getting work if we didn't. But anyway, if you want to work with us, my name's Colin, this is Preston. Appreciate your time today, and that's another episode of What the Builder Knows.
Thanks.
Have a great day.